What's up, everybody?
Hey, everybody. What's up, everybody? And welcome to another episode of Standing Out. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Standing Out. Now, you may be wondering, those regular time viewers, what is happening today? Why am I wearing a New York stocking cap, and why is it pink? Listen, these are great questions. We're going to answer those later today. We're glad that you're here. I'm Trey Griggs, founder and CEO of Beta Consulting Group. So glad that you're with us today for another episode of Standing Out, a podcast about sales, marketing, and leadership. Hey, do me a favor. After the show, go check us out at betaconsultinggroup.com and see how we are helping companies with their marketing, their messaging, their branding. We're all about building great brands in the industry. And also, you can find us on YouTube to find other episodes of Standing Out and Word on the Street and the other things that we like to do in the industry. Also, before we get started today and bring on our wonderful guests from the Valley of the Sun, got to say thank you to our friends over at Sales-CRM. Josh Lau is my good buddy. Hey, listen, he's building a CRM specifically for freight brokers. And you got to keep this in mind. Not all CRMs are created equal, especially when most CRMs are not built with your freight brokerage in mind. Sales-CRM, it's built by freight brokers, exclusively for freight brokers. So be sure to visit sales-crm.com or check us out at betaconsultinggroup.com/standing-out. We got all the information right there as well. You can request a demo, learn a little bit about them, learn a little bit about us. A lot of good stuff on the page as well. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate your support. All right. It is time to bring our guest on to the show today. Met this guy on LinkedIn. It's the power of LinkedIn, everybody, and how we connected. He is the Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing at A&Z Trucking. Please welcome Cody Koehler.
I love it.
You've probably never seen somebody in a pink stocking cap jamming out to enter Sandman. It doesn't happen a lot. Happen a lot. How you doing, man? What's going on?
I'm great, man. How about yourself?
Well, I got a quick question. Who's your favorite baseball team? Do you like baseball? Are you a fan?
Just a little bit. I'm from Phoenix and Utah originally, so we didn't really have anybody to root for. So I grew up a longtime Yankees fan. Everybody who knows me knows that I'm a diehard, and been a rough week and a half for us, but last night gave us a little bit of hope. I'm hoping that we can, turn the tide. We've been on the wrong end of a 3-0 series, right?
You have.
And I'm hoping that maybe we can be on the right end of a 3-0 series. So.
That was an epic meltdown against Boston. I'll never forget that. It was pretty intense. First time it ever happened. But yeah, the recording of this is the day after Game 4 of the World Series. It's now a 3-1 series lead for the Dodgers. And so I'm going to put you on the spot here. When this comes out, the World Series will be over. I'm going to put you on the spot. What's going to be the outcome of this World Series? Who's winning and how many games?
Oh, man. I mean, I've got to go with us winning in 7. I mean, my heart's got to go there, right? I mean, my gut's telling me that that's a big hill to climb, but we looked good last night. We got Cole on the hill tonight, and I think if we can, I was listening to something last night. I think it was on ESPN or something, but there's never been a Game 6 in the World Series if anyone's ever been down 3-0. There hasn't even been a Game 5 since 1970. So
really,
yeah, I was shocked by that. Usually they just roll over if they're down 3-0, right? I guess
that makes sense. Yeah. Or gentlemen's sweep. Sometimes they might get one, but then they'll lose the next one. I guess that makes sense, but I'm a little surprised that it's been that long. Well, at least they'll make some history if they win, the next game. They can at least get to a Game 6. Exactly. And that's why you play the games. You just never know. You never know what's going to happen with that. Now, let's get to why I'm wearing a pink stocking cap with New York on it. All right. So I'm a Royals fan. I'm from Kansas City. We had a little banter online by the power of LinkedIn. Like this podcast doesn't happen. Our friendship doesn't happen without the power of LinkedIn. But I was posting about New York, or about the New York Royals series, New York KC series. I was hopeful that the Royals would play well. I felt like they had a great shot after winning a game in New York, because now we're going to a big ballpark and they play small ball, and that should have been in our advantage. We just, every at bat seemed like we were trying to win this stupid thing. And we ended up losing, but we had a little bet, and that was that I would wear a New York jersey on a podcast. We couldn't quite get the arrangement quick enough to get the jersey for this show. I'll wear it on Word on the Street. I figured this was a nice little kind of, middle ground compromise for now that you can see NY the whole show while we're on the show. So I'm just going to wear this thing the whole show. We'll just go with that. But that's why it is. Now, why is it pink, Cody? Well, that's a good question. The reason it's pink is that I'm a girl dad, and just about, I think 4 out of every 5 things in my home are pink. And so I don't have a lot of options here. Not a lot of options. This is what we're working with today. So
I love it.
We got to go with this. All right, Cody, let's get this show on the road here. Talk a little bit about what you do and a little bit about A&Z Trucking. You guys are a freight brokerage. You have some assets that are available. Talk specifically about the freight that you move, maybe the lanes that you move, and your role as Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing.
Sure. So A&Z Trucking started in 2003. So we've been around 25 years in February. So, pretty aged brokerage. We started out of our CEO owner actually owns a produce wholesale company as well in New York, upstate New York, and kind of got tired of dealing with freight brokers. So he said, F it.
I'm going to become one.
Yeah. He's like, I can do a better job. Right. So he's like, I'm just going to start a brokerage. And that's kind of how it started. And he's literally the American tale. Like he came over here when he was 15 from India. Right. And worked in New York, started his original company, which is the Far Produce. That's our wholesale side, off of a pallet of tomatoes. It's a really cool story, like really, really cool story. I think I screwed up most of the time that I tell it, but basically he got $200. He was working a bread route, right? Driving for a bread route and delivering to all these food service companies, all these restaurants and everything. And they kept asking him like, hey, can you get fresh produce? Can you get fresh produce? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, well, we don't carry it. But he got $200 because they were him and his now wife were expecting their first child together. Got $200 to go buy a crib. So didn't tell his wife that he got the $200 and went down to the Bronx market and bought a pallet of tomatoes with it instead. And went and literally started delivering tomatoes to all of the restaurants on his bread route, turned that $200 into $1,000 and then just continued from there. And he built, I can't remember how many companies he owns now, but built his whole empire off of a pallet of tomatoes. It's a really cool story. But for us, A&Z started in 03. A&Z started in 03. We are very, very heavy in the produce industry. So we move, I don't know, probably 90% of what we move is produce. A lot of California, Washington, Idaho, Arizona stuff. So if you guys, ever listen to anything that I'm ever on or my podcast, we talk a lot about produce logistics, the difference between Yuma season and Salinas season for everybody who doesn't know. Any salad that you're eating during the year, whether it's Olive Garden or store-bought, it's either grown in Yuma, Arizona or Salinas, California, depending on the year. And so, yeah, I mean, we're all food and bev. We don't really move we don't chase, we don't move flatbeds. We don't do that. We're very good at what we do. And we've been doing it for a long time, and it's very, very good. Power lane. I mean, our power lanes are honestly anything outbound out of those produce regions. We actually do own assets. We own our own warehouses in Washington State. So we do apples, pears, cherries, onions, all that sort of stuff out of there. We also own a warehouse in Salinas, California, one in Yuma, Arizona, and then one in New Windsor, New York. So upstate New York. And we do a lot of like cross dock consolidation programs for customers. So for those people who don't move produce, trust me, you never get a one pick, one drop. I'm just being honest with you. Because everything's just in time, right? You don't know how the harvest goes every single day. Most people don't realize that if you see a load of produce on a truck, it was harvested the day that it's loading. There's no back, with the exception of like onions and apples and potatoes and stuff. But like your leafy stuff, that's literally harvested at 8 a.m., cooled at noon, and on the truck by like 6 to 8 p.m. And then, boogieing across the nation, usually on a team, because there's such a short shelf life, right? And so we decided about 7 years ago to get into the warehousing game because of the difficulty that a lot of our customers were having. Like if you get a team load that needs to go to California to New York, or from California to New York in 2 days, and they spend 2 or 3 days loading because they got 6 picks, a product that they first loaded, it's going to be toast, right? So
yeah.
We do is we have contracted carriers that work with us. They're all dedicated to just us. And our customers will just send out POs to us, right? They're just going to say, hey, I need these 15 POs picked up today. This is what the outbound loads need to look like. So we route everything according to, distance and what makes sense and all that fun stuff and availability of the product. And then we send out our fleet, whether it's on a bobtail or a semi or whatever it is going to be that day, depending on the number of pallets. They bring all that stuff into us. And then we build the outbound pallets. So we can take I think our top was like a 16 picker. We can take 16 picks, consolidate it, get all of that done in 12 hours, bring it to our facility, and get your outbound truck out. So that's been a huge thing for us. We're one of the few that actually offer that. But yeah,
is your owner Syed Zafar? Is that who it is?
Saeed. Yep.
Saeed. Yeah. So and that's an incredible story about taking $200, buying the tomatoes, doing the route, and turning into an empire.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. I mean, although, I mean, as Frank Sinatra says about New York, if you can make it there,
absolutely,
make it anywhere. Right.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so that's a cool story in that regard. I want to ask you about your operation. So you guys are doing a lot of picks, a lot of drops, a lot of cross docking, warehousing. What technology has made the difference for you? Do you guys have a lot of custom proprietary technology, or is there a TMS out there that works well with this? I'm just curious because it's obviously more complex than like one pick, one drop van freight and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. So we partner with Turbo. Turbo actually has a very good TMS. And then shout out to Josh. I didn't know he was one of your sponsors. I love his CRM.
He's
Sales
phenomenal,
Dash.
dude.
Yeah, I'm a faithful user of Sales Dash. I actually have it in the background behind my laptop right now.
Josh, we didn't plan this, man. We didn't plan it. We're just giving you some extra love.
Josh is a good friend of mine. Yeah, he's phenomenal CRM for priced right and functions great for what we do. But yes, we do have some proprietary software, but we partner with we partner really heavy with DAT too. DAT helps us a lot with customizable data for us because we are kind of unique with what we do, right? We also partner with Parade. Parade's been a great partner of ours from a capacity standpoint. They've really helped us figure out a couple issues that we had in the past. They're a great company to work with. If anybody is new in this industry, the capacity crunch will be here. I know it's been easy. I don't want to say easy, but it's been easier the last 2 years, right? Capacity wise, but it's coming. I've been in this industry for 21 years and every high has a low. So if you're not preparing right now for when that capacity crunch is going to happen, you're going to be in trouble. So Parade's one of the great partners of ours.
There's such a blessing in having the history of being through some cycles and kind of knowing what to expect. You don't know when it's going to happen, but you kind of know what's going to happen when it does. And that's a huge benefit to have that. And, I don't know if you noticed or not, but I got my career start in the industry at DAT. I don't know if you looked at my profile.
I did not.
Yeah. So 2012, I'm living in Portland, Oregon, and I was doing door-to-door sales of office supplies. And I did that for 15 months. And then I was ready to get a real sales job, quote unquote, something with a salary and some benefits maybe, because I was 100% commissioned doing door-to-door stuff. Okay. And the recruiter that I met there just happened to have a relationship with Janice Compton, who's the director of inside sales at DAT. And that's how I kind of got my foot in the door and got in the industry. And 13 years later, still here and can't really get out, as you know, like once you're in, it's a great industry. It's hard to get out. But I remember when I was at DAT, 18 months in, I got promoted to the enterprise side with Mike Weaver. And at that time, we had some really, really talented people at DAT, Jeff Nastoff being one of them. And he basically came back to Mike and the team and said, hey, we're sitting on this data that's really good. We just don't have a way to put it on the load board. We don't have a way to put it out there for people to see. And that's the whole beginning of professional services. That was the beginning of their analytics arm, what they're doing extensively. And I remember just being there. It's like we had this data on spreadsheets that we just started selling, and it was dark capacity. It was good. It was good data, good information, more of the search history, which is real valuable. What carriers are searching, and that type of thing. So it was interesting to be a part of that, and to see where it's come at this point. It sounds like you guys are getting a lot of benefit out of it.
They're a completely different company from even 5 years ago. Their analytics has been really what separates those guys from their competition, honestly.
Yeah. Well, they rebranded to DAT Freight and Analytics to have that in there. Here's another fun fact about DAT. When I started there, if you said DAT, they hated it. They hated it. Like they was like, no, it's DAT, it's DAT, it's DAT. And we had to drill that into the minds of customers and prospects and our marketing and all that. And I think now they're like, we don't care. I hear people saying all the time. In fact, I think I heard one of their employees actually call it that recently. So some things have changed over time, I guess is how that goes, which is good. Before we go any further, you did mention having a podcast called Crossing the Finish Line. You've hit 8 episodes. You're just getting started. You're on your way to do that. What led you to start a podcast? What kind of got you into that of, hey, I think I want to do this? I mean, I'm sure somebody like Chris Jolly had to be, inspirational.
I'm really good friends with Jolly and Samantha Jones, right? I've worked with both of those guys professionally.
Phenomenal, and both of them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're both great friends, as well as Cassandra, right? Cassandra Gaines. That was actually the first podcast I was ever a guest on was hers.
Oh, really? Okay.
A couple years ago, yeah. And I'm kind of the resident produce nerd for Ken and Dean. So I'm on the DAT or DAT podcast usually every quarter or two to talk about produce with those guys. So. I had a lot of outreach actually from some of the episodes I was on, and people were reaching out to me and wanting to work with us. And so I figured, if that's going to help me on my personal branding and help our company, then I figured it'd be worth a shot. And it's been good. We've had a lot of great guests. Hopefully you'll be on there one day and talk some sales with me. We're actually
really happy.
Yeah, I'm talking with Jolly and Samantha about doing a big end of year blowout. Just do a big consortium of people who are in sales. do a big episode, hour and a half or whatever, talk about
have a guest come on little by little, 2 at a time, 1 at a time, 3 at a time. Yeah.
So you should join us for that for sure. But
count me in. I mean, as long as I can do it, man, I'm in, man. That sounds like a lot of fun. And I love the fact that you did that, because I think people think of podcasting, and if maybe it's not their first thought, they kind of think one of two things. There's too many podcasts out there, right?
Yeah.
Or I don't have enough to, I don't have a story to tell, or I don't have enough to do, or nobody's going to listen. There's kind of that doubt that creeps in of what to do. Mm-hmm. I think it's great, man, because it's like, in my opinion, the podcast of 2024, 2025, your strategy is really like the blog of 2006.
Yep.
Back in the day, people were like, should we start a blog? And now, we realize that blogs are a great way to get information out, to have SEO, and it served its purpose. And now people, are cool with being on the treadmill and listening to podcasts. It's become a regular part of how people consume information. I mean, think about, the presidential campaigns. I mean, we don't know who won at this point, because when we're doing it, we'll know it after this. But the thing I've noticed about this cycle is how much podcasting is playing a role where it hasn't before. I mean, that's all people want to listen to, right? Is a podcast, because it's unscripted, it's uncut, it's unedited, it's just raw, it's real. Mm-hmm. And it's funny how we're kind of moving back to that direction. It's like before you had to be with somebody in person and live to know that they're real. And now we're starting to move back to that, where we want to see a podcast where they're just sitting there, the cameras are rolling, there's no editing. Yep. That's how we know it's real. Podcasting is a big deal. I'm so glad that you started it, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been great. Surprisingly, I have a lot of customers that watch it, right? And they'll hit me up afterwards, and all of them are like gun shy, like, oh, I don't know if I want to be on there. I don't know if I'm camera ready yet. And I'm like, man, you guys got a great story to tell. You've been in this for 10, 15 years. Just come and talk to us, and
dude, that's the thing. Every customer, everybody has a unique story that nobody else has lived. Even if it's the same, if it was a produce grocery store chain, whatever, even if it's the same type of business, the way they got there and how they run it and who they are as people, it's always unique. It's always different. So kudos to you, man.
Great. Yeah. I came from the shipper side. I was on the shipper side for 12 or 13 years, and then
okay.
Yeah. And I worked with ANZ on a consolidation project in Denver at the time. Right after I'd moved down to Phoenix. I grew up in Utah, just right outside of Salt Lake originally. Moved down here to work with Taylor Farms for a year. Was a director for those guys, and just became really good friends with Saeed. And he made me an offer that was good enough to get me to jump ship, and it's been great ever since. So, but
that's awesome. That's awesome. What suburb of Salt Lake City?
I lived in Layton, so like right by Hill Air Force Base, just right outside.
Dude. Yeah. That is one of my favorite cities. It's so beautiful out there. Just
especially wintertime, right? If you can handle driving in the snow. Oh man, the mountains. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. That was one of my first territories at DAT. So I was like my second business trip that I ever took at DAT was actually to Salt Lake City with Celestial Freight down in Provo, and Steve Van Otten at Freight Tech there in Bountiful, which I think is just north a little bit. And oh man, I'm failing to remember all of them, but there was a lot of customers there that CR England was there. Yep. Josh England became a friend of mine. Just a lot of neat people there in Salt Lake City, but the views, man,
amazing.
Really.
And if you're into outdoor stuff, I mean, you can't be Utah.
You have family there? You still go back?
I do. Yeah, I still go up there. In fact, that's originally how I listened to Jolly's first podcast. I was joking with him last week. I was driving to Utah to go to a golf tournament with a customer, and I was listening to an episode of Joe Rogan, and his popped up as like a suggestion, right? And this was 3-4 years ago. I can't remember. And I listened to it and I was like, this dude's in Phoenix. He's right by me. Listened to like his whole catalog driving up to Utah. And then afterwards I was like, I got to meet this dude. And him and I have been like great friends ever since then. And it's,
man, one of the best. One of the best guys in the industry, that's for sure. You're a golfer. I like hearing this too, man. We're learning all kinds of things. So we got to get you to the Broker Carrier Summit in Indianapolis in April. The event itself is phenomenal, but we have the Post and Pray Classic. The Post and Pray Classic. It is the premier golf tournament in the industry. We give away the best giveaways. It's a 2-person team event. It's not a 4-person scramble. Because I hate those things. I hate 4-person scrambles. People are cheating all the time. It's good. It's terrible for your golf game. We play a shamble, which is a little bit different. It's you get a little help off the tee like a scramble, and then you play it. Yeah. Anyways, we got to get you out there to the Broker Carrier Summit and to the Post and Pray Classic and play. That'll be great. Or I just need to come down to Phoenix and play some desert golf.
Welcome down here, buddy.
I mean, that's what we ought to do right there for sure. All right, let's jump back into talking about this. We had a conversation on LinkedIn, and when we first got connected, because I just asked you, hey, what are you seeing out there? Hey, what's going on? How's that? And you kind of shared with me that, obviously volumes are okay, even up a little bit, but margins are way down. And your sales guys are working hard. They're making less money.
Yep.
And I asked you this question. I want to dissect this a little bit. How do you keep a sales team intact, motivated, driven, excited, energetic when you're in a down season, when you're in a down market? They're working harder, but they're making less money. I mean, what do you do in the moment to that? I'm sure you're projecting, hey, listen, this is going to pay off in the long run because as margin, as rates come up, margins will go up and you'll be making more at that point. But in the valley, sometimes it's hard for people to get that perspective. Talk about what you do with your team just to keep them, in the game.
It's all about culture, number one. And I know I'm going to sound like a broken record because most people talk about culture, right? But, at the end of the day, from a company standpoint, we know that there's going to be times where we've got to take care of our employees because the market's going to dictate X. Market's the market, right? We can't change the market. So for us, it's just finding new creative ways to incentivize them, maybe switching up your KPIs. It's not all about gross profit all the time. At the end of the day, you got to make money and keep the lights on. I get that. But right now, I'm more concentrated on what they're doing today to help us next year, right? And help them next year. So it's planting the seeds. It's understanding that we live in some very long sales cycles in food and bev, right? Some of them are 6 months, some are 12 months. So you could prospect somebody for a year and not get any chance, but all it takes is that one RFP and you can change your life forever from a monetary standpoint. So it's finding just creative ways. I'm more focused on quality right now. So I think I mentioned this yesterday on my podcast with Samantha. I would rather my sellers right now make 5 extremely good quality calls a day than 200 cold calls, right? So we track length of call. That's a big one for me because you're never going to close a good customer in a 10-minute call. You might close a customer, but they're probably never going to pay you. They're going to have crap freight. It's going to be, they're just going to be onboarding people to get rates. You see that a lot, especially in the down market. They'll onboard everybody and they'll send you an RFP, but all they want is your rates to go back to their incumbents and drive the rates down, right? That's not what we want. We have an ideal customer profile that works for us. That's what we target. And, for the most part, I just want to keep my sellers upbeat. We take care of them. I like to throw out extra little kicker bonuses based off of random KPIs that are going to help us in the long run, right? It may not produce gross profit dollars today, but I know that it's setting us up for success in 6 months, 12 months, whatnot. So,
yeah. Now, are your sales guys in the same location? Do you have kind of a sales floor? Or is everybody remote?
So we're actually a smaller team. I believe in having a couple killers instead of a legion of okay people, right? So I have 2 sellers right now. One's here in Phoenix and one's in California. And strategically, it works out for us because they're very close to several of our larger customers, right? So yeah, it's that, but they both work remote. I don't really care on the sales side if they're ever in an office, quite frankly, because if they're wasting time commuting or anything like that, that's time that they're not spending with their customers. We travel a lot.
And that's an interesting perspective. Obviously, I'll being outside and traveling a lot, that changes a little bit, but that's an interesting perspective because some people are diehard, like, hey, sales guys need to be in an office. They need to be working off each other. There needs to be a combat, from a sales perspective, that kind of thing. And some people are really religious about that. And other people like you're like, it's not really that important. That's not what matters. I think in this day and age, it's a real question that people have to ask is, do I create an in-house team or do I just go out and get the best talent and I don't care where they are? Yep. And I want to ask you this question because you've gone the route of remote. What are some of the other metrics besides length of phone calls, which I think that's a great one, by the way. I think that is so solid. What are some other metrics from a remote management perspective that you take a look at just to make sure that these guys are doing well, that they're staying on task, that things are moving along nicely? Because here's what ends up happening is you hire somebody for sales remote, a killer, quote unquote killer. You pay them maybe a high salary. It's hard to know what they're doing sometimes. It's hard to kind of really manage them and keep an eye on them. Talk about what you guys do for that.
So I'm actually blessed because I went the talent route, right? So I went to find people who are motivated, and I am zero micromanager. I've never been a micromanager in my career. I don't believe in it because it's always hindered me. And when I've had a manager that was micromanaging me, I think that everybody sells differently, right? So, our main KPI, we're still going to track volume, right? We're still going to track productivity. But what we're tracking more is what's the end result versus just your, checking a box. I hate coming up with KPIs that are just check a box. You can hire anybody to check a box, right? You can hire anybody on the street that can say, I can make 200 cold calls a day. Right. In 6 months, they still haven't produced $1 for you. I don't care if they check every box, right? Right. It doesn't matter. So for me, it's, we manage or we measure all of their LinkedIn content, all of their LinkedIn outreach. I think LinkedIn, that's how you and I hooked up. I think it's a great tool. It's a huge tool for sellers, right? If you're not active on there and you are not creating a personal brand versus just traditional selling, right? Yep. I know that's what your specialty is, but personal brand is everything, man. I mean, it turns this is my famous saying is personal brand is the bridge that turns a cold call into a lukewarm call. So they know who Trey Griggs is from seeing this episode. You're a real person. You're not a bot in Zoom info that's just randomly saying, sending out an email saying, hey, can we move some freight with you today? It's instead saying, hey, I've seen Trey. Like he talks the talk, he walks the walk, he knows what he's talking about. So that's a big one for us. That was something that we really rolled out this year. It was new to us, but working with Samantha, we actually worked with her on her consulting side. She was a consultant for us for a while. And that was something that she pushed, and we've seen great results with it. So, they have KPIs based around how much their output is on LinkedIn, for example.
I love hearing that. And I mean, I think of it like this. Imagine 30 years ago, all that salespeople had basically was a phone and a car, maybe. Like that's how they got people. And then email came along. Yep. And we had to make email a part of the sales process. And now, of course, it's embedded in the sales process. But to me, personal brands is the next thing that you have to incorporate for sales to be successful, especially in our industry where relationships are everything. Agreed. And I think about this all the time. Like I follow Gary Vee. You might follow him as well.
Oh, yeah. Love Gary
Vaynerchuk. Love him as well. I feel like I know him. You probably feel the same way. Like I know he loves the New York Jets. I know he's big on wine. I know he's big on empathy and leadership and on social media for personal branding and consistency. Like I feel like I know these 4 or 5 things about him, and the consistency that he's had makes me feel like I know him, even though I've never met him.
Yep.
I feel like I know him. Number one. Number two, if Vayner Media ever called me and it came up on my phone, Vayner Media, I'd answer that call.
Yeah.
Not because I want to work with them or know anything about what they're doing, but because of him, of him. And I think that's the power of personal branding, is that it creates this feeling, this perception of familiarity and trust before it ever even starts.
Yep.
Like you're just getting halfway into the relationship, automatically. And that's such a powerful thing. I think it's massive. Kudos to you guys for doing that. That's huge. And Samantha's great. Glad you worked with her.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Actually, the funny story is I landed a customer that's a Red Sox fan literally because of an episode. Yeah, because of the podcast episode, and he started talking trash on LinkedIn to me, but like in a very
that's so great.
Friendly sort of way.
Yeah.
And we became good friends after that. I've got several friends that are Red Sox fans, but that one was funny because I landed a customer that came to me, which most people in this industry are like, customers don't come to you. They don't go to your website and look you. They're not Googling produce brokers, in America. But, he happened to be a diehard Red Sox fan.
You never know.
Yeah,
right. You never know. I mean, the power of LinkedIn, when I was working at Trucker Tools, there was this guy named, I'm going to call him out, Mark LaBrosse from McClay's Logistics in Detroit. All right. My buddy Mark, he's a good friend of mine now. I was calling on this guy and calling on him, and no return phone calls, no responses to email, nothing. And then I put a video on LinkedIn of me shooting baskets because I played in college. And so I had this video of shooting baskets. And the whole point of the video, I think, was like my coach had told me when I was in high school, if you learn how to shoot correctly, you'll always be able to shoot a basketball. Mm-hmm. And it's true, because I can shoot pretty well. So can Brent Orsuga down there from Phoenix.
Oh yeah.
So anyways, so I put this out there, and lo and behold, Mark LaBrosse likes basketball, and he comments on the post, and he's like, a free year of trucker, like how about a one-on-one for a free year of Trucker Tools? And I was like, let's do it. And that started a friendship that has lasted now for like 6-7 years from that one post that I put on social media about basketball. I couldn't get that guy on the phone. Couldn't get him.
Yep.
And now if I call him, he would pick up right away. He's a good friend of mine. It's crazy. So love you, Mark. But that's what it took. Had to have something, an experience like that, like your Boston Red Sox fan, for that to happen. And you just never know. That's why it's so important to do that.
It's just another tool in the tool belt, right? Like that's
100%.
what branding is.
100%. All right, Cody, listen, we have to have a little bit of fun on the show. All right, we're going to play a game, and this game here that we're going to play today is called Would You Rather.
Got it.
All right. Here's how it works. Our producer is going to put something on the screen, this or that, pretty much, a would you rather. And you have to tell us which one and why real quick. And we're just going to go kind of rapid fire here and see how we do. All right. The first one is, would you rather have a mullet or a perm?
Oh man, like I ain't got much left,
Well, if you grew it out, which one?
If I had to draw it, I mean, I think I'd go the mullet, man. Got a party, party in the back, right?
100%. The only people that, in my opinion, the only guys that were cool with perms were like the 80s, like, rockers. They could have a perm and they could get away with it.
I just think of Richard Simmons when I think of perm, right? Like,
yeah.
Stuff,
yeah,
right?
that's actually a bad example. So definitely not a perm. I'm mullet on that. All right, that's cool. All right, next one. Yeah. Would you rather only watch Hallmark movies or only watch horror movies?
Oh, horror movies. 100%.
You're a horror movies guy. See, I'm opposite, man. I'm a scaredy cat, dude. Scream bothered me when I was a kid. Like, I can't handle it. Our producer absolutely loves scary movies and totally makes fun of me for that because I do. So, and I'm also a girl dad. We watch Hallmark movies all the time. I'm just used to it. I know the plot. I make fun of them. Yeah, I make fun of them when they kiss at the end. Yep. It is what it is. Yeah, I'm with you. That makes sense. Okay. All right. Next one. Would you rather find a rat in your kitchen or a roach in your bed?
Rat in the kitchen by far. I don't want anything in my bed. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
No doubt. Depends on, is it a New York rat? Those can get pretty big.
But at least I can shoot a rat, right? Like I can grab a 22.
That's true, but you get a paper towel, you can get the roach out. I mean, I don't know.
True, I don't know, but I always hear that if you find one roach, that means there's a couple hundred that you don't know are there, right? So
maybe there's a bunch of rats rolling around too. If there's one, why is there a rat in your kitchen? That's the question. That's the first question. What's going on at your house?
100%.
All right, next one. Would you rather live through a zombie apocalypse or a robot?
Zombie, robot. I mean, what are you going to do against a robot apocalypse, right?
Exactly. No, I mean,
Terminator. That freaks you out.
There's not much of a chance. Yeah, you get a cave and you kind of wait it out for a while. You might survive that. You can kill them a little bit occasionally, but robot apocalypse does not seem good. Okay, all right. Do we have another one here? Last one. Here we go. Would you rather have a personal chef or a personal chauffeur?
Chef, 100%.
Yeah. Well, two reasons. Yeah, I do too. I think that's one of the reasons why, how they say that like in 10 years, none of us are going to own a car. We're just going to ride share. No, man, I want to drive.
Yeah, me too.
That's the fun part of it is driving. So I'm with you. Definitely personal chef. That would be better. Yeah. Oh, that'd be good. All right. Last little fun thing we're doing, a random question of the day, Cody. We're going to get you out of here on this one. If you could only bring 3 things with you on a deserted island, what would they be? What would you pick?
Things, not people, right?
Castaway version of today.
Man.
So what are you going with?
That's a tough one. Bring 3 things on a deserted island.
I mean, one has to be a knife, right? I mean, you gotta have
a knife. And do I get cell reception? Can I bring my phone and still watch like sports? Like, that's a good one. If I could bring like an iPad or something and still.
This is an important detail of the question. Is there a cell tower on the island?
Right? Yeah. Elon
it does say deserted.
Starlink's getting people internet everywhere, right? So
that's actually what you should do because it's a deserted island, so there's no internet. So you want a Starlink satellite, and then you need to have some sort of generator that never stops, like some sort of perpetual generator, because you got to power the thing.
At least solar. I mean, hopefully, if it's a deserted island, it's tropical, right?
So this is funny because you have a knife. So only 3 things: a knife, Starlink, and some solar powered thing. You don't even have a TV to watch anything on, or
yeah, exactly. So maybe ditch the knife. I can kill some rock or something.
Yeah, right? maybe the knife should go. Just catch some fish as best you can. I don't know. We have to no more knife on desert islands. We need a TV, Starlink, or maybe a laptop. Actually, a laptop, Starlink. Just solar powered energy.
Sports, man. I'm a sports nut. I got watch my Yankees and my Buckeyes. So
you could watch sports and move freight if you had that set up.
Exactly. You could do both. I could still make money even though I live on a deserted island.
Not that it would do any good, but that might be the way to do it. All right, Cody, this has been really fun, man. Thanks so much for being on the show today. It's good having you. Got to make the next one happen on a golf course, my friend.
I'm down for that any day, buddy.
Let's do it. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Cool. Thanks.
All right, everybody, make sure you come back every Tuesday for an episode of Standing Out with great guests like Cody, and make sure you follow him on LinkedIn. He's a great follow, knows a lot of stuff. Follow his podcast for sure. It's called Crossing the Finish Line. It's a logistics-based podcast with guests each week, each month, whenever he does a couple times. He's going to be getting to episode 10. By the way, I don't know if you know this or not, but episode 10 is a key one. Most podcasts never get to episode 10, so he's going to be there real soon. And before we go today, I want to give another shout out to our friend Josh Lyles over at Sales-CRM for sponsoring the show. We appreciate that and your partnership, my friend. We'll see you guys real soon, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving coming up. If I don't see you before then, if you don't catch a show, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We'll see you guys real soon. Peace out, everybody.